Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my channel. Today in this video, we have two main topics. The first one is two stories of what will happen when chess meets fashion. And then the other one, of course, is our regular routine. Like every video we do this, we have game recaps of recent events. Now, first of all, there is the very recent top tournament, the 2025 Grand Chess Tour Sinquefield Cup, which have just ended a few days ago. The ending was extremely thrilling, with 3 players playing in the playoffs to determine who will be the final winner of this such important and strong event. But before we go and take a look at the games, first of all, I'm going to share a couple of news and stories with you guys, and some of you guys might have already heard of this. And by looking at the screen here, the photos I'm showing, the news article, you guys can also basically know what happened. So first, from FIDE, the 2025 Grand Swiss will feature a new and more flexible dress code. Dress code, it is definitely not the most important thing when you're playing chess, because all you need to do is just win games, but sometimes what you dress can affect your emotions and make you feel comfortable or uncomfortable and affect your thinking. The world number 1 stars like Magnus Carlsen, he, for the first time, there was some dramatic things that has happened before all of this happened. For the first time ever, appropriate jeans, dark, classic, non-distressed, are now officially allowed. And the idea is to keep events elegant, but at the same time also making it comfortable for the players. And speaking of jeans, Magnus Carlsen, world number 1, is once again the face of G-Star. The world number 1 stars in their fall 2025 campaign, showcasing denim and tailored looks. This comes less than a year after the infamous jeans gate incident in New York, where Magnus, he wore jeans when he was playing in the World Rapid and Blitz Championship, and he refused to change his jeans, walked away from the World Rapid, and caused a huge debate, sparked huge debate. Ironically, that very pair of jeans later sold for over $36,000 at auction, and with proceeds going to charity. So all of these were quite dramatic, but also at the same time, changing the dress code could be a good thing, making it more comfortable for players. Now Magnus is back and blending chess and style at the same time, while FIDE itself embraces a more modern image at the same time. Alright, so basically this is what has happened recently about chess and fashion. And now our second topic, which is the Grand Chess Tour Sinquefield Cup. This is a tournament that has caused a lot of attention. In the classical games, in the classical sections, where there are 9 rounds and 10 players, you play against each player 1 time. So 9 rounds, of course. And at the very end, Fabiano Caruana, Praggnanandhaa, Rameshbabu, and Wesley. So these 3 players, they are tied 5.5 points out of 9. Basically, there are no tie breaks to compare, and they have to go into the playoffs, the tie breaks, where they have to play blitz games, which is quite interesting and thrilling. The games are definitely like roller coasters, and every game is very important. For today, we're going to be taking a look at this very important game between Wesley and Praggnanandhaa Rameshbabu. Wesley is with the white pieces, and for the games here, there are 3 basically. For round 1, Pragg is playing against Fabiano, which Pragg won that game. And in round number 2, Wesley started to play against Pragg. In the very last game, Fabiano is with the white pieces playing against Wesley, but Wesley drew that game with the black pieces, and that actually counts as more points. So here, the second game is definitely extremely important. Wesley with the white pieces, and let's see how this game went on and how it affected the whole ranking. The game started with e4, and basically we have an Italian game, the Italian game, and pretty popular nowadays among especially high-level chess. Either you play the Ruy Lopez or the Italian or something else, but basically it's these two which are the main options. Knight f6, d3, a6, and here bishop g5. A very interesting option here by Wesley. Definitely this is not a move that is in the engine's favor or in the opening book's favor, because here basically for white needs to do is just to castle or play, for example, like bishop b3, ideas to develop the pieces and coordinate the pieces to where they should be in this case. But here, after the move bishop g5, which might have been Wesley's preparation or something, or the idea of getting out of both sides' preparation into something completely unfamiliar for both sides. So after bishop g5, this is just slightly an inaccurate move, but it's quite hard for black to, without any analysis, quite hard for black to reply with the very best moves. Here, Pragg plays the move bishop a7, although he should have played the move h6, which had been the best reply to bishop g5. But instead, bishop a7 was played, which is also a very common move that is played in the Italian to avoid any b4 tempos or d4 tempos. And here Wesley plays knight bd2, developing his knight, d6, a4, preventing any b5 ideas and also just simply gaining more space on the queen side. And here knight e7 was played, bishop takes f6, g takes f6, and here black has this quite ugly pawn structure, but at the same time, the compensation is that black has the bishop pair, and also in the very next move, black can play the move f5 to try to get rid of this very weak pawn on f6. So after g takes f6, here Wesley plays the move short castle. Knight g6 was played, and everything was going on quite normal. h5, Pragg is going for some attack on the king side, definitely meaning that he will not go short castle in this case, because his king will become even more weaker if short castle was played. So here Wesley plays the move rook e1, h4 was played, knight f1, ignoring this pawn, because so far it doesn't really threaten anything. If black keeps on pushing, then after g3, this pawn can no longer be pushed, and basically all of these squares are like being controlled by the pawns as well as this knight. So black doesn't have enough counterplay, and this pawn in the future will become a weakness, definitely. So here, bishop e6 was played instead, offering a bishop trade. Bishop takes e6. Here, basically, if you play d5, which looks like a very reasonable move, attacking the bishop, gaining a tempo, but what's most important here is that after the move d5, every pawn move counts and is extremely important when you want to play them, because the pawns can never go back. And after d5, this diagonal is just forever open for the dark square bishop, which might lead to some problem, as well as it blocks white's own bishop to attack the f7 pawn. Basically, black just moves the bishop back and black is fine. White will have a hard time to find a nice idea. So that's why instead, the only other option is to take on e6. Definitely retreating the bishop back doesn't make much sense. So bishop takes e6 was played, f takes e6. Black's pawn structure here just seems quite funny, and also quite hard to reach a pawn structure like this. But now in this game, it has been reached. But after you calculate for a couple of moves, it's not that hard to attack any of these pawns, but except the e6 pawn. And in this case, Wesley goes for the attack immediately with queen b3, also at the same time attacking the b7 pawn. But of course, Pragg is not just losing pawns or material in this case. He played king d7, although queen d7 would be a more calmer move, but king d7 is also a pretty nice option. h3. And definitely, you cannot take on b7 because this is called like a poisonous pawn. And rook b8 cannot be played, neither queen b8 because black will just be simply down a pawn. But after this move, bishop b6, rook a7 is coming to trap the queen, and it is unstoppable basically. d5 trying to break through, but after knight e7, controlling the d5 square, and as long as white's queen cannot go to either of these squares, rook a7 is coming and white will be losing the queen. So that is why, of course, you cannot take the b7 pawn, but still the queen on b3 puts a ton of pressure on the e6 pawn. And here, h3 was played, queen e7. This is the very first mistake in this very whole game. Knight e3 was played, king c8. It simply just gives white the chance, the time to maneuver his knights to better places and start launching the attack in the center of the board, as well as on the queen side. And here, first of all, rook a d1 was played, opening up files about to do that, like d takes e5 maybe. Knight f4 looks quite scary, attacking the g2 pawn, and it's not that easy for white to get rid of this knight on f4, but there's no need to so far. King h2, queen g7. There might be some tricky ideas on g2 if this knight ever moves away. And here, knight g1 was played, rook g8. Still, Pragg is following his idea of attacking the g2 pawn, but at this point, this e3 knight is doing an excellent job on defending it, and even though knight g2 is being threatened, but after this move, knight e2, knight g2 is unable to play at this point because after knight g2, there's rook g1, and also even better would be to take on e6 first, and then rook g1. Even better at this point. Definitely, knight e2 is the move that Pragg didn't see, but at this point, he only has 31 seconds left on the clock, and don't forget, this is the tiebreak, the playoffs, where it is blitz chess. And here, Wesley has a huge time advantage. He is up 2 minutes, and he will have enough time to put pressure on his opponent. But still, he needs to come up with really accurate moves. And in this case, Pragg kept on making mistakes, king d7. But at this point, he just wasted too many moves. And now white will just start to open up everything. First of all, knight takes f4, e takes f4, knight g4. This bishop on e7 is just simply useless. This pawn does a great job blockading the bishop. e5 right now is useless so far. Well, f3 was played, and this knight on g4 does a great job blockading this whole file. f5 is quite hard to play for black because the king will be even weaker at that point. Rook e3 was played. F takes g2, rook f3. You see, Wesley is just playing all of these moves quite fast and also quite accurately. He is not taking, even though it is possible to take, like you're not losing, but you simply give back all the advantage that you had, and the position is once again equal after the move rook a f8. Still, black cannot play f5 to try to win this knight, because after take, there's queen e6, and you lose the f5 pawn as well as the game immediately. But Wesley here just plays this move immediately, rook f3. He knows what he is doing. He has a very clear idea in his mind. And here after rook a f8, but now queen takes b7 is possible because there's no longer any bishop b6 ideas to trap the queen on b7. And the bishop is right now unprotected, which means white just gains the tempo and threatens to take the pawn on a6 on the next move. Pragg only has 18 seconds. He plays the move f5, trying to create counterplay desperately. But after e takes f5, even better, even a more beautiful win here would be to play knight e5. Because if you takes, king goes back, and queen c6, simply you just win the queen on the spot. Or even here, rook f5 wins as well. Takes, and then there's rook d7. But however, knight e5 is a move that needs a lot of calculation. Definitely in classical chess, this move would have been played. But here, e takes f5 is the other move leading to the win. E takes f5, knight e5, king d8 back, But after king g1, this really quiet move, but preventing any counterplay, the only counterplay that black has, which is to try to promote, and now there's just simply nothing that black can do. Pragg still tried desperately for a couple of moves, but after a5 takes, knight c6, he lost the bishop first, and then queen c6. He didn't resign yet, but he will after a couple of moves, and finally here after rook de1, everything is just falling apart. And for black, f4 doesn't really work because after rook e7 takes, queen b5, everything here just loses, and already mating is coming, and black is just unable to save the game. What a beautiful win by Wesley So here. This is a very important, crucial win for him. And for the very last game that he played against Fabiano in the playoffs, he drew that game with the black pieces, which just simply gives him the first place title. Now, before this whole tiebreak thing, he even had thought of trying to split this whole title, between them three, but unfortunately, the arbiters and everyone, FIDE didn't really agree to that idea, so they had to play the tiebreaks, of course, the playoffs, but of course we can learn a lot of things from these games and simply enjoy the eval bar going up and down. Well, in this case, basically it is mostly white's eval bar who is the one who has more, but definitely Wesley played a lot of moves that are quite good for us to learn. For example, the move knight e2. Sometimes when your pawns are being attacked, the first idea that comes to your mind is not how to run away or defend it. Sometimes you need to look for counterattack. And this is exactly what Wesley did here. And he played even more great moves in the rest of the game, like king g1, and at the very end wins beautifully and cleanly after the move rook de1. And he simply just wins this whole tournament. You see here he wins the second Sinquefield Cup in blitz tiebreaks. This is his very second win of this whole event. So congratulations to him. And well, yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed my recap of this game as well as this whole video and also my sharing of the fashion thing. And yeah. So thank you guys for watching this video and please subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!